The following is a RackRadioShow.com exclusive.
This is WWE superstar Drew McIntyre, and you are listening to the Rack Radio Show on Wild Talk Radio.
And welcome back to the Rack Extra Reviews right here on WildTalkRadio.com. He's Rock, I'm Lindsay, and we're back with WWE 2K23. Yes, it's here, it's hit. I'm so excited for this. Are you excited?
I'm very excited. You know that. I love this game.
This game, oh my gosh, this game. I have so many wonderful things to say about this game. Just my general overall impression, 2K did an amazing job building on what they did last year. I like the improvements. I think there's been some really good improvements made overall, wouldn't you say?
There are nice little tweaks and changes to the game that makes it feel a little bit different than the previous season that they can tell, you can really see they've cleaned up some areas, especially in the creative wrestler and wrestlers in general, which we'll get into. And they added some stuff back into the game that was broken from a couple of seasons ago with the game, and now it's back in, which we'll talk about. And they added a brand new mode, which is awesome, and made some changes to previous modes that were in the game that is a vast improvement of it. And we'll get into it all. So
we have to talk about the UI first, which is they had some nice tweaks here and there. Obviously, they had to take out all the stuff for like what they did last year in terms of the flames and the fire and the Rey Mysterio and all of that. So we have John Cena coming in as our featured individual for this particular go round. So it's themed to John Cena in the beginning, and then they have a nice like background. I like all the superstar entrances flashing in the background.
It's very colorful. The new UI. Very bright, colorful, and it moves really well. It's very visually stunning, is the best way to describe it.
It's beautiful. It handles nice. Like, Rock has been playing it on Xbox. I've been playing it on PC, and it's smooth.
Yeah.
It runs well. It's simple. That's what I really like about it, is it's very simple, and I'm going to use an overused word, but it's clean. It's really clean in terms of navigation and trying to get around. Some of the more advanced settings are a little difficult to find. Like I had to, in terms of when you first launch the game, for at least me, it comes up full screen, and I have two screens, and so I had to get it on the right screen and get it into a windowed mode, and it took me a minute to figure that out. But it wasn't that hard to figure out. It was relatively straightforward. And I like that. I like that you don't have to go through 50 billion options to find that kind of thing. It's just right there kind of in your face. Because some people bury that stuff. But the overall menu for the game is very easy to navigate, very simple, and I like that. I think they did a good job with that.
They kept the same setup from last year, basically, where how everything's divided. But it's cleaner look, it's a cleaner presentation, and you're able to get through everything that you need to get through and choose the right mode, because then right up front you get all the modes. You get the play mode, where you can just have the exhibition matches, then you can get your story mode with My Rise, the My GM mode, the card pack mode, and everything like that. Universe mode, it's all right there. The showcase mode with John Cena, everything's right there in the front and go, boom, want to go to it? Go for it. And that's good. So, right off the bat, I jumped in the game, right? And I played an exhibition match, and it's like, okay, cool. The one thing I like this new setup, how they set it all up. It shows you the type of match, and it's broken down differently than in the past. It's a different UI setup. And the one thing I like, where it's like, used to be just like, here's a static picture of, oh, hey, here's the name of the arena. And you don't see much of it. Now, you get a preview of the arena that you're about to go into when you're trying to select it, which is great. So you're able to see all the different arenas that are unlocked in the game. And by the way, there are a lot of them. In terms of NXT. There's featured a lot. So you have like Great American Bash, and you have Stand and Deliver, and you have a bunch of in your house. You have all the different premium live events that NXT kind of runs, whether it be on television or on the network. And they're in the game now, so it's like, wow, you actually have a full presentation of NXT. You also have the original NXT arena, the NXT 2.0 arena, and the current NXT arena, which is, I know last go around they had to work their way to get the NXT 2.0 arena in. It was like a late addition, like in one of the patches, so it was like, cool, it's there, we have the new one. We even have a War Games arena for NXT and Survivor Series, which is cool. And you could tell in the process when things were sort of put together, and them getting Survivor Series War Games in, because that was a really last-minute adjustment. And it's not the full look that they had from the pay-per-view, the premium live event, but it's enough where, hey, you still have Survivor Series War Games as a thing in the game. And we'll get into War Games mode here in a bit. But yeah, I like that change. It was a nice, surprising change where you get to see new things and you get to see your environment before heading into a match.
Yeah, I will say that they did that for a lot of different things in terms of the previews where they updated them. It is nice in terms of the match creation selection that it's much simpler in terms of you do the setup for the match and what you want, and then you go on and you pick the wrestlers and you can set all that up, and then you can go. It's a lot easier to navigate that. And one thing that was my one complaint about last year was not necessarily setting up the matches, but kind of how out of date the game already was when it came out. And unfortunately, that was something that really couldn't be helped. Like, last year was a seismic shift in terms of WWE and everything that they did, and for changing NXT and roster changes and everything else. This year has just kind of continued that trend a little bit with people coming back, people leaving, things shifting. But what's nice is when you load up this game, especially for something like NXT, it is up to date. Like, they're pretty close to the current champions that are in NXT right now when you load in the game. Now, have things changed and different champions and that kind of thing? Yes, but for the most part, it's very, very up to date, which is nice.
As best as it can be.
As best as it can be, but it's not like it was last year where, like you said, they had the old black and gold in the game, and it was like, oh, the old black and gold, but they had already gone to NXT 2.0, and there was nothing that 2K could do. This is not 2K's fault at all. It's just WWE decided to do a rebrand while the game had already gone into basically production, and there was no way to put it in before they sent the game out for sale. Because for stuff like this, there is a cutoff point that they have to hit, because they have to print the copies of the game, they have to get all of that ready to go for market, and so they have to say this is the drop date for X in terms of getting all the content in, and anything that comes after, we can always put it in a DLC, but it's not going to make the original game. And that's pretty much what happened in NXT last year. Was they put the old black and gold in, and I think what was it,
September, October, and the game came out in March, but it was originally scheduled for like earlier than that, so the game was finished and they were just working out some bugs and kinks and marketing towards the end. But
when they made the change, so they couldn't do it. But with this, it's not like that, which is nice.
It is very nice. So let's get into some of the things that have kind of changed and updated. One, when you play the game, there's a new pin meter, which is different. It's not button smashing. You have to it's a timing mechanic where you got to get it into an area, which is different. I kind of like it so far. Played a few matches. It feels pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
I like that aspect. First thing I noticed, it was the first match I played, there was a female referee in the game.
Which is so cool!
Big props. And then the biggest overall change to the game and the way it's played and the brand new match type is War Games. Okay. This was different. It felt 100% like a War Games match would play out, where the numbers advantage plays in the favor in the mode. Like, you can be dominating and then here comes X person, now it's 2-on-1 and you're getting beaten down a little bit. And the presentation of it looks great. I like the little setup where you have the guys in the back, in the cages, in the crowd, so that you can tell which one thing is you can't create your own arena for it. It has to be very limited because of the crowd structure. You take what you can get with it, and hopefully in upcoming years they can get that where you can create your own arena and play War Games. I know there's 2 currently, and I think there's one tied to the My Faction setup with the cards, where you may be able to get a third. I don't hold me to that, but that's what I've heard. So there's that. But War Games played really well. I like how the wrestlers bring in the weapons. All that was really good. It felt different. It felt unique. And being the smoothness going from one ring to the other and the crossover was
That's
good.
a chef's kiss.
Mm-hmm. Like, you were streaming a match of it, and they did a press slam from one ring to the other. That was cool.
Yeah, you always kind of worry about when they do something like War Games because you just don't know how the UI is going to handle it. They did a beautiful job with the UI in terms of dealing with War Games, with everything that's going on, right? Because it's a two-ring cage match. They have to go back and forth. You have weapons. You have people flying everywhere. You have all kinds of things going on. And the way that they did the camera angles, the way that they handled everything, it's a really smooth, good experience. It handles really well because you have 6 people in the ring, and just from past experiences, like in terms of like something like the Royal Rumble, for example, the game in the past did not necessarily like more than, I would say, 5 people in the ring?
6 at most, and then they got it up to 8, which last one ran smooth with 8.
It ran smooth with 8, but it doesn't always like multiple people in the ring. It liked what was going on. It was fine with it. It was like, okay, we're just going to do this. You didn't have like that awkward spot of like when the Rumble it looks for pairings, right? So when you had the uneven numbers, you just didn't have a wrestler standing there posturing. You had everybody getting involved with everybody all the time, which is what you want. I also, for War Games, really liked the little detail of the ref opening and closing the door.
Yeah.
I don't know why I like that, but I like just that little bitty detail of they get in the ring and the ref opens the door and the ref closes the door. Like, that was just a nice touch.
It was a nice touch. So that they made this new mode from scratch. It took them a while to get in there. People wonder, hey, why can't you just throw War Games in? Because they had to write a whole new script for it, basically, to get it into the game and try it out and test it and get out the bugs. And the fact that it runs smooth is a testament to 2K and all the hard work they put into it. It's like, it felt really fresh and really natural, and it's a nice addition to the franchise.
Good job.
Very good job by them. So, a couple things that are kind of, standard. We have the My Rise mode, which is your story mode. Last season didn't have finish, but it had a lot of twists and turns. And now there's going to be a finish to this season, which is great for this story. Because you kind of don't, like, open-ended is great, and you can go in different directions, but a finality is always good. So apparently that's going to be in there. Haven't had a real chance to get into story mode, but it looks like it's going to be good. I know you looked at it a little bit. There's like 2 different versions you got to do.
Yeah, there's the Legacy, and then there's the, oh goodness, I can't remember what it's called right now, but the basically where you're the earmarked talent that's going to be the big guy or the big person within WWE, and you're the up and coming star, and there's a lot of pressure. So you have 2 different ways to go, which I really like. Because the Legacy is your aunt was a big star in WWE and you're following in her footsteps, or you can do you're the up and coming talent. Mm-hmm. I will say, just from a storytelling standpoint, I like that you're going to have a finish to this, because unless you're going to carry over to the next version of the game with the My Rise stuff, it doesn't make sense not to finish the story, because then it's just, you're done and you're like, is that it? It's confusing. So the fact that this will have finality to it is very nice. I like that. I like that they took the time.
So one of the big changes to My Rise, and you pointed it out when you were going through it, was you can create your own superstar first and bring them into My Rise. Before, you couldn't do that. You would have to build them in there, and then that's where they stayed. So you would have to rebuild your character outside of My Rise. The fact that you build them outside of it and take them in, that's a huge step.
Yeah, that's nice, because you can already have that and you don't have to do it a second time, which is
great.
Yeah, considering the intricacies of which people go to create characters in this game.
With all the imaging and everything like that people take into account to get some of the creative wrestlers that get put in there. Yeah. Speaking of creative wrestler, there are some minor tweaks. Not much has really changed. Outfits are pretty much what we're used to seeing, with a few additions. One thing that has changed, height and weight are no longer just connected to, hey, here's your heavyweight, and you can do this, and your weight would go up based on the height. It's now back to, hey, you could be 7'2" and 300 pounds, not 500 pounds. It's the logic's there where you can now have your own custom weight back, and it changes aspects of it, so it's not stuck to one thing where it was last year. So that was a nice change. Speaking of creating a wrestler, your AI logic for creating a wrestler and any wrestler in the game now, There's so much detail. So you can, like, there are meters where you can change. Hey, you can gear your wrestler to be more of a high flyer. You could say, hey, he does dives. And then if you have a big man, you can turn the dial all the way down to make sure they don't. So you can create it's a new system. I think they took some ideas from, like, Fire Pro and stuff like that, where you're able to adjust your character to, like, hey, they were given, you can do top rope moves. It's like, but I don't want my character to do 2 top rope moves when you're simulating a game, and it's like, this will now allow those characters to play the match as you want to intend it, and not having your guy do a dive over the top rope when that's not what you want. So that's a nice addition. Hairs have been cleaned up.
Yes, I'm so happy about this. The hair in this version of the game is so much better. Especially for the talent. Like, it's still a little questionable on the creator wrestler side, but it was always sketch, so I can't complain too much because they did make an effort to clean up the creator wrestler hair. Like, there were things again last year that they just couldn't get. And last year, it's like the hair just for the creator wrestlers was really just kind of bad, unfortunately. Like, there's always a huge discrepancy between the actual modeled superstars versus what you create in game. There's less of a discrepancy now, like, especially for the faces and for the outfits and for everything else. The creator wrestler side looks really, really, really good. But yeah, the hair overall is a huge improvement on what we've seen on any past game. Like, the texture of it, you can see what's nice is you have the individual strands in there that cover up the more chunky portions, so when it moves it looks more like real hair.
Yeah,
which was sorely needed for this game. Like, you still have the chunky bits, but when they're doing the entrance it looks really, really good. And then when you get them in the ring, it's like, okay, this is fine. This is acceptable in terms of how it's supposed to look. They look like themselves.
which is good. Speaking of looking like themselves, especially on the females, because a lot of detail was missing. There's more sculpture to the faces of the females. They're not rounded as much as they were, because you could tell, hey, they worked on a bunch, but there were some that didn't get the great adjustment to their faces. It was a sort of a more rounded face. But now you see chin definition and everything like that for the females, especially, and there's a vast difference. Like, I've seen the before and after of, like, say, Lita. There's a vast difference of, hey, her face looks more natural. You can say that about a lot of the women in the game. Their faces look more natural, which is a big step up. So it's like, with 100 and something people in the game, some people get left out, and it happens with the guys too, where it's like they're in there, but you can tell they're not fully adjusted the way they need to be. You can tell a lot has been put into the finer details of trying to create as many perfectly realistic faces that they can do. And every year they go, more and more will be added and fixed and adjusted. And you can tell that with the women this year. They made an emphasis to change that, which I like. It's a very small detail, but it's a nice detail where it's like, hey, there's some curvature there, and it's, you can see chin definition and things like that.
I will say, it seems like the one thing that they really did with this game is they took the fan feedback and they applied it in many different areas. Because I know they were looking for feedback last year. They were looking for people to kind of tell them what they liked, what they didn't like. They took reviews like this, maybe not our review, but they took reviews and they listened to what the fans had to say in terms of how to best improve the game, at least the people that weren't just completely dunking on it, that actually gave constructive feedback of, this is what we'd like to see. Because, again, last year was the complete rebuild of the franchise, and this year they're adding on to it. So they didn't have to worry as much about rebuilding, and they could concentrate on those finer details. Because I think last year, just comparing the two, because there's going to be a lot of comparison, they worked on essentially who they needed to work on. Like, the big names in WWE got the special treatment, and then some of your lesser names didn't get as much like they got in the game. They made sure they looked acceptable and they put them in. And this year they were able to go back, like you said, and really work on a lot of the character models and just improve them.
Yeah. So things they added back were the creative entrance. It's kind of back to where it was a couple of years ago, where you can change different aspects of it and stuff like that, which is great. I like that. We need more generic colors, because I still don't like the idea of having your character walk out to Shawn Michaels entrance wall or something like that. We need generic colors. We need ways to add our own logos to entrances and videos, etc. That should be the next step. It's great that you can change colors and do different things, and lighting, what have you, but that would be the next step, to have your own custom video wall. And I hope that's where we're going in the game.
Or at least, if you can't upload a logo, remove the logo that's in the video wall.
Right, just give me generic video colors, like smoke colors of just video wall.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just so it's not showing the names. Hey, your character's coming out to Diesel's entrance video wall. Like, some of it works, but the word Sheamus and your guy's a female doesn't work. So, like, just give me some more generic stuff. That'd be good. But I like that we have advanced entrances back in the game. Create Arena is what Create Arena is. They've added a few new pieces to it, new stuff from the arenas in the game, and that'll continue to grow, but it hasn't really expanded from where it was. But Create Arena is Create Arena, and you can upload your own logos and stuff, and people make some of the really crazy arenas. And check out Community Creations. A lot of people make really good arenas from past WWE eras and stuff like that. There's really good ones out there. So if you like Create Arena, go look up some of the better creators. They do a wonderful job with it. Then there's My GM mode. I was diving into it right before we started this review, and it's like, last season it was just one go around. You got one season to go through, and it was 50 weeks of booking, and you had cards you could play and stuff like that. And this go around, holy, there's so many different cards, so many different match types. Now you have 3-ways and 4-way matches. You have the secondary titles in there. You have different stipulations, more GMs. You got Tyler Breeze and Xavier Woods in the game, which is awesome as the GMs. You got Herc Bischoff, Kurt Angle, Mick Foley. Steph is in there. Adam Pearce and Sonya are still in there. But like the mode itself is like, it's separated seasons now, so you can play longer. Seasons are shorter, so there's additional drafts, which is interesting. I got to the point where you start doing keepers and stuff like that. So it's like, before you could build to WrestleMania, and then you could have just gone all out with your character, all the people in there. You can wear them down as much as you want, because WrestleMania was the end. Now you got to think, I need them for the next season. So so there's more strategy into it. And there's a lot of different cards in there. There's like doubling your opponent's cost of certain. Before you just double cost of the show, now it's different aspects of their advertising and match types and different things like that, which is different. And there's the wrestler logic is a lot better, where it's, hey, it's not working out, I'm gonna leave, and then it was like, hey, cool, pay me money, or oh, no, I'll stay, or oh, contracts up, I'm done here, sorry, see you, bye. It's like there's different logic of how they play, and with the UI now, it shows their morale more. You can see it, which is really, really good.
Yeah. I like that they've expanded on the My GM mode. It was kind of one of those things that was experimental that they put in the game last year. And a lot of people took to it because it's a really very interesting mode. And it was a little weird last year. I like that they've redone the interface. I like that they've reworked it. I like that you get to be Breeze or Woods. I like that all the other old GMs are there. That Eric Bischoff was honestly a surprise. I was like, oh, hey, look, Eric Bischoff and WCW, they're in the game. That's cool. But that you had all of this stuff that, the different GMs, you get perks depending on the GM you pick, you get perks depending on the card you use. You get different things. Like, they've really expanded on it in a very good way to make it interesting and keep it interesting. And the fact that, you win the game basically by going into the Hall of Fame, but you can collect trophies doing it, so you can do it multiple times if you want.
You get trophies throughout the season, and then at the end of the season, there's the Slammy Awards. So it's like you get awards for, hey, you booked this amount of matches, and this person won this amount, and stuff like that, which is really cool. It's sort of like Mario Party type aspects, where, hey, you get traditional trophies because you've done well in this aspect, so it'll lead to different rewards and whatever. It's a really nice change, and it's like, this feels different. This feels fun. Like, I really like the GM mode from last season, but this is going to play a lot better and going to have people coming back to it, because each season, each different thing will feel different. And I like that. But overall, they did a really good job. Overall, this game feels like it's going to be a lot of fun. I think if you are on the fence about getting it, get it. It's going to be a really good game. They have a lot of DLC planned. There'll be updates throughout the course of the game's lifetime. There's a lot here where they had a solid base, now they've built on it. So it'll be nice to see where they go from here next year. But this year, you got a loaded roster with legends, current talent. There's a lot of new talent. from NXT. You got like the Cora Jades, the Alba Fires, and the like who are in the game first time. You have different looks for people like Rhea Ripley. Her entrance looks fantastic because last year she looked so different than she was last year because she's changed her entire look since it. And the people who you've seen grow Edge with short hair is weird to see, but it's in the game now, and here we are. But overall, it looks really good. Okay, so there's one disappointment I have. And this is a big miss on their part. There is no Bloodline entrance.
Yeah.
Like, I went to do it. I wanted to see what the Bloodline entrance would be. There was no Bloodline entrance. And I was like, where's the Bloodline entrance? Unless there's something where you can find it, and maybe it has to be unlocked somewhere. If that's the case, okay. But off the rip, there was no Bloodline entrance. I was like, ooh, that's a miss. That's a miss. Because they're like the biggest thing in WWE, and you want to see them come out, all hold the titles up, and it wasn't there. I was like, oh, that's disappointing. They do have a double title entrance, so Roman can come out with both belts, which is great. But the Bloodline entrance, it kind of needed to be a thing, because you have some trio entrances, so it's like, even if it's just a trio entrance, like, you're missing that. It's just missing that feel to it. But that's a minor thing, but it felt like a big miss.
I feel like they could put it in at some point.
They could. They definitely could.
And maybe that's coming as part of the DLC, or maybe that's coming at some point. But it is a miss, but it's not a huge miss.
No, it's not a game changer, because guess what? 2 months from now, the Bloodline could be dead, and it wasn't even needed. So,
is it foreshadowing?
It could be. It could be telling us something. Anyway, overall, great game. Go out and buy it. It's available right now for pre-order because it releases on Friday. But if you ordered it early access with the deluxe version, you have it now like we do. It's available for PC, PlayStation 4 and 5, Xbox Series X and S, and the Xbox One. Go out and buy it. You will really, really enjoy it. Again, thanks to our friends over at 2K for providing us access to the game. It's going to be a lot of fun. Can't wait to dive into it, stream it some, and all that fun stuff.
Yes, thank you to our friends over at 2K. We are very, very grateful for everything that you do for us. But yes, it's a wonderful game. Go buy it, go enjoy it, have fun, because that's what it's meant to be. But I think that does it for us. What do you think?
Make sure you'll follow us on social media. It's at Wild Talk Radio, at Rack Radio Show, at Lane's Board. Come to twitch.tv/WTO Live when the Rack is live Thursday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern, covering the world of sports and entertainment as we gear up for WrestleMania season. Go to youtube.com/Rack Radio Show. We'll have a bunch of content, some shorts up there from the WWE 2K game that we're putting together. You can follow Lindsay on YouTube. It's youtube.com/@LindsWard, and she's at twitch.tv/LindsWard as well. She'll be streaming some of that game and other games as well. Go check out her content. Yeah.
So, with that, once again, thank you everybody for listening. You've been listening to Rack Extra Reviews WWE 2K23 edition, and we will be back very soon with another review. Till then, bye!
Time is now. It's the franchise where I'm shining now. You can't see me. My time is now.
Wild Talk Radio.